This meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission is being videotaped in its entirety and will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 61, the Government Affairs channel on the Sacramento cable system. Today's meeting is being cablecast live and will be repeated Friday at 9 a.m. Members of the audience wishing to address the Commission should fill out a speaker identification form located at the back table and give it to the Secretary. Our Secretary is right here. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the Commission and state your name for the record. Roll call, please.
Grantland Johnson.
Here.
Toby Johnson. Collins. Roby.
Here.
Strang.
Here.
Ferris. Castanis.
Here.
Panay.
Here.
Fletcher.
Here. There is a quorum present. We're going to have a very pleasant time here today, and we're going to get started on item number 1, the future of community programming. We've asked the grantees, which the Cable Commission sponsors, to present a dream that they have which extends their kind of services and programs for a number of years ahead. This means that they're going to get beyond the money that has been allocated this year, but more than that, they're going to hope for programming which we can sponsor as time and funds become available that carries us much closer to the next century. And we're going to start by asking old-timer Randy Van Dalton, who represents Access One, to come forward. And he's going to be one of 3 speakers on the Access program here in Sacramento County. Randy, it's all yours.
It is, huh? Old-timer, thank you very much.
For 5 minutes or a little more.
I am just here today in a very different capacity than you've seen me before. This will be my last formal appearance representing Access Sacramento. Thank you, Terry. Yes, I thought you'd get a real kick out of that. Thank you very much. As I have let each of you know, I have just left my position as the Executive Director of Access Sacramento to become a partner in a cable television consulting firm that particularly specializes in the public interest issues for cable television. I guess I have some background in that field anyway. So again, I just would like to thank each and every one of you for the terrific cooperation we have seen through the years to help make Access really an incredible thing and really put Sacramento on the map, and that has been most recently made true by the decision of the National Federation of Local Cable Programmers to bring their national convention here to Sacramento in 1994. We're very proud of that, so I'm very happy to see that that could have happened during my tenure with Access Sacramento. So what I'd like to do now is introduce to you our Chairman of the Board of Access Sacramento, who will begin our presentation, and that is Michael Hayward. Thank you again.
Welcome, Michael.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. The main thrust of our presentation will be a look into the future, but I just wanted to spend a moment looking back, if you will permit me, because many of you on the Commission 7 or 8 years ago must have realized that we at Access Sacramento were undertaking a very large order. And you must have wondered whether we'd be able to deliver what we promised. I believe we have done this. We have not only met but exceeded whatever we promised in the past. And that's, I think, because the board of Access Sacramento is a very unique board of directors. Many of us have come to this board with radio and television experience. Some of us are high executives in prominent local firms such as Sacramento Bee, SMUD, Pacific Bell. Some of us are prominent educators. All of us, however, are extremely enthusiastic and dedicated to Access Sacramento. It's very often the case when a board member leaves the board, you kind of sever relations with the organization that you leave. But that is not the case with Access Sacramento. My previous predecessors, Norman Hartman, who is in St. Louis, can't be with us today, Joel Contreras, who is an administrative law judge, have both joined with some members of the board on an intensive select committee to find a successor to Randy Van Dalsen. And we have every reason to believe that we will be successful because we've launched a nationwide search. Now, how did this come about? It came about because some of us were intrigued with the opportunity of giving everybody in Sacramento a free crack at a spot in radio or television. Except for Access Sacramento, no other channel on the system does this. No other channel can say to a nonprofit organization or a member of the Sacramento community, if you've got a message, come on over. We'll let you convey that message to the Sacramento community. And what's more, we'll train you and teach you how to do it. All of that will be free. Thanks to our joint venture of teaching with the Los Rios community colleges, over 5,000 residents of Sacramento have taken our television and radio courses. More than half of them have been certified to use our facilities. How have they done? How have they done in competition with some 1,400 similar public access organizations throughout the country? In the last 5 years, and don't forget we are relatively new kids on the block with only 5 years of experience, we've won many national awards for the best programs. We have twice won national recognition among our peers as the best public access operation in the country. And I believe we would have won this more, but it just doesn't look good anymore. Access Sacramento has, as Randy said, put this community on the cable map. We are visited regularly by people not only from other access operations in this country, but overseas as well. Just in the last 2 weeks, representatives from Sweden and Japan came to see how we do it. Now you would ask, have we gotten a sufficient bang for the buck that is invested? We have calculated that during the current fiscal year of 1990 to 1991, it would cost about $9.5 million to carry out our operations. As Randy has told you, as a tribute to the kind of thing we are doing, we have drawn a conference in 1994 that will bring 1,500 people here to spend their money in Sacramento. So when I turn this microphone over to the interim executive director, Lynn Bartlett, I would plead with you that you listen carefully to what she has to say, what she has to ask of you, and then just say yes. Thank you.
I'm honored to be representing Access Sacramento. I've had the unique opportunity to play several roles with the organization. I was on the original steering committee. I've been a member of the board for several years. I was chairman of the board. I've also functioned as a community producer, and now I'm acting executive director. I'd just like to add that we accepted Randy's resignation with deep regret. His inspired leadership has enabled us to become a model for effective management of resources and creative, broad-based programming. As Michael just said, we in fact have an international reputation. During the transition, he will serve as a consultant, and I feel confident that our staff will maintain the high level of excellence that our community has come to expect from us. Our staff knows their jobs, and they do them well, and they will continue to do them well during the transition. The executive board is looking upon this transition with optimism, and we have a belief that change can be positive. The mission of Access Sacramento is to empower individuals, organizations, causes, and communities within Sacramento to produce and/or cablecast their own public access television and radio programs, responsive to a full and diverse range of our county's residents, perspectives, concerns, issues, and interests. While the support materials that we have offered to you amply demonstrate that Access has been fulfilling our promise to the community, there remain some areas of opportunity that additional funding would allow Access to enter. I've broken those down into 4 areas. The first is in the area of production. Access volunteer producers are currently creating approximately 25 hours per week of original programming. Examples of this programming include We Seniors, a weekly program produced by and devoted to concerns of senior citizens, Health in America, a monthly live call-in talk show devoted to holistic health methods, other programs like the Oak Park Summer Concert Series, the Dixieland Jazz Concerts, and so on. These are noted by the fact that these projects are created by the producers and the topics are selected by the producers. When a community group or an individual comes to us with a great idea for a program, we encourage them to follow in the footsteps of our community volunteers, which is laborious. Fun, but laborious. You have to take classes, then develop your script, put together a volunteer crew, which can be very challenging if you're talking about pulling together 10 people. Then they have to actually shoot, edit, and finally cablecast. Some do that and are rewarded with terrific results, but often we'll get a comment like, "But I need a crew next week." And we have nothing to say but, gee, maybe next year. Sometimes if it's a really worthy thing, the staff will sort of scramble and will try and pull together a volunteer crew to actually do the taping, but unfortunately, more often than not, the opportunity is lost. Think about, in your own situation, events that have come up in your districts that you'd like to see cablecast. If you've called us and asked for a crew, sometimes we can accommodate, more frequently we can't. So what we propose to do is develop a program that would have staff and some trained volunteers utilizing our existing equipment document an average of 2 events per week. These events could be sporting events, an interesting guest speaker, a parade, a political debate, theatrical events, things of that nature. This would add 4 hours a week of additional original programming to our schedule, and the request would be coordinated by the staff coordinator. Such programs would expand the opportunities for programming, expand the number of groups that we could serve, and add valuable programming to our channels. The estimated cost of this would be $500 per event, or we're asking for $50,000 a year. Next, Access Sacramento has developed a program called Project Outreach. It was designed to introduce community access television to nonprofit organizations. We provide the expertise, and the nonprofit group provides the information. This was put together to create a 5-minute video that explains something about their organization. The response to this outreach program was overwhelming. We've completed programs for the Women's Civic Improvement Club, the local Conservation Corps, and have programs in the works on the Tree Foundation and WEAVE. As you can see, it's sort of a broad base of interest. Unfortunately, we had to put the brakes on the program because there's an overwhelming interest in this, and we just do not have staff capable of devoting time to accommodate this. After some consideration, we proposed creating a 30-minute studio program each week that would highlight the nonprofits one by one in the community. The program would be coordinated by the same staff producer that would be coordinating the event coverage, and we would also utilize some of our trained volunteers to help work as the crew. With over 300 nonprofits in the community that are on our mailing list, we know that the opportunities for this programming go on for years. It would do more than that. It would also give some of our volunteers the next level up in training, because they would have an opportunity to work closely with staff, and it would increase their skill knowledge as well. The estimated cost of this program would be $25,000 a year. In the next area of equipment, the first thing that we would propose is adding something that we call the studio in the box. This is a package of equipment that could be put in the back of a station wagon and would be the kind of equipment package that could be utilized for a shoot where hauling our big van and having our technician involved isn't really necessary. A technically trained volunteer would be able to manage this package, and they would need a smaller crew. The estimated cost is $15,000. And finally, since opening our doors in 1986, Access producers have created over 5,000 hours of original programming. The good news is we've worn out our equipment. The bad news is we've worn out our equipment. And in a 5-year period, it is recommended that all the equipment should be replaced. We're at that 5-year point. Our technician is working daily to keep the equipment up. We're rotating pieces, taking pieces from one area to another as the demand serves, but the equipment is old and creaky. By 1994, we anticipate that everything will have to be replaced, and we are proposing a 3-year phase-in of new equipment purchases, $125,000 per year. Next area is facilities. Our present hours of operation are from 10 until 11, Monday through Friday, 10 in the morning till 10 at night, and 10 till 4 on Saturdays. In order to accommodate both the proposed expanded programming that I've talked about and also the increased demands on our facilities by our volunteers, we would like to stay open until 10 o'clock on Saturdays and add Sundays from noon until 10. Most of our community volunteers do night and weekend work, and so this would accommodate their needs, and the staff would utilize the slower times during the day to do the programming that we've proposed. The estimated cost for those hours is $35,000. Finally, in the area of promotion, an audience survey conducted in April of this year revealed that 2/3 of the respondents who have ever watched programs on Access found us with their remote, just by flipping channels. Once they find us, they like to stay, and we have built our audience. And in fact, when the channel change came, just by moving us down on the numbers, our audience share went way up. We would like to sustain and encourage that. And the way that we feel would be most effective is to join with the other grantees to do joint advertising. Along the lines of the change in the cable guide, where we originally, Access was sending this out to 2,500, under the leadership and support of Rich Espasto, we now are joined with the other grantees and we send out 9,000 of these. That was a really slick way for every grantee to multiply their list. And we'd like to use that same philosophy to have a position created, a promotions coordinator position that would be operated through the Commission's staff, a person that would be responsible for doing this on a sustained basis. Currently, the guide is kind of rotating monthly in terms of pay stub. We'd like to see that centralized. We'd like to also coordinate advertising with the other grantees so that we could get into the Sacramento Bee and do a sustained advertising campaign with the others and have more impact for the dollar. One other thing that we think would be very advantageous to us is to speak as one voice, all of the grantees. When our public relations director says that it's not uncommon for her to call up one of the writers at the Bee and say, "Oh, I've already talked to you people." Well, in fact, he's talked to the ECC or he's talked to one of the other grantees. And when there's confusion on their level and they view us all as one, we feel that the way to simplify that would be for us to all funnel our information through this coordinator. We propose a joint advertising budget and staff position together of about $100,000 a year. In conclusion, just let me add that this is an ongoing dialogue and we fully expect questions and further exploration together as you study our proposal. I'd like to thank you for your interest on behalf of Access Sacramento, its volunteers, and its audience.
Lynn, we congratulate you on becoming the acting executive director.
Thank you.
We thank you for the packet of materials. And commissioners, do you have any questions to ask Lynn?
Well, it sounds wonderful.
I have to tell you that I'm having a lot of fun. This is great.
You know, I really, Mr. Hayward, when he said that, did we wonder that the success which has come to Access, we knew. Maybe we didn't know all of your names, but we knew the talent was in the community, and I really expected just exactly this kind of quality. And I think it's a great pride to the community, and I think certainly to this commission. I did have a dream that something like this would exist. you're doing excellent.
Thank you.
I have a question for you. Yes.
Linda, the comments that you made, I'm intrigued by your idea of a joint promotions coordinator and a joint budget for advertising and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Are your ideas in the orange packet or on the videotape, or do you have prepared remarks to respond to them?
Basically, what I've just said to you is written down. We can certainly expand on it with you, but it's just a short paragraph at this time. I should say that these are all things we've talked about for a long time. There's nothing new here. I think that the success of the program guide made something like this, helped us put the idea together a little more clearly. But I'd be happy to talk more about it.
Thank you.
Okay? Yeah.
Lynn, on your expansion, where will that funding come from?
I'm sorry.
Where will the extra money, the expansion, come from?
You mean in terms of additional hours or in terms of the whole proposal?
The whole proposal.
I think that this was really just in response to Mr. Fletcher's letter. In terms of what we would do if we had more money. Right, right.
If you don't get the money, you wouldn't be able.
These things won't happen, no. And you know, we will continue to do the good job we're doing. But these are sort of the things we'd like to see happen if we could, to improve what we're offering the community.
I thought we could conduct a lottery and, you know. But if we don't dream, if we don't plan ahead multiple years, we're always going to be in the same position. It's the end of the year, we've barely gotten our budget settled and into the new year, and we're already repeating just what we did before. So this gets us beyond the immediate moment, and if you don't have a dream, you're never going to make a plan anyway. So that's why Lynn and her friends are here today, to give us some inspiration.
All right. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Some members of our audience may not know that the Commission is really the sponsor of a number of grantees. This was originally Sacramento Cable's stance. The various channels and programs were under their direction, control, and in negotiations several years ago, the control and administration of all this was transferred to Sacramento Cable Commission. And that's how we got into the process that we're reviewing today. Next, I'd like to call upon Jay Thompson, who represents the Sacramento Educational Cable Consortium. Jay, come forward and let's hear your dream.
Thank you, young man. I'm Jay Thompson. I'm chair of the Sacramento Educational Cable Consortium. You have received SECC's complete proposal and plan with your commission packet. SECC has been and will continue to concentrate on providing educational service to the Sacramento community. Today, we will look at what we envision the SEC channels to be in 5 years, and then representatives from our 3 major service groups, K-12, community colleges, and the universities, will briefly address their visions of educational cable as a resource in the next 5 years. You have our present 91-92 educational guide, and inserted under the first page are the proposed program schedules for 1996. And with that, now we would like to show you a short videotaped spot promotion of that future programming.
Line 22 and 23. You'll find programs for lifelong learning at home. Study for your high school diploma or a bachelor's or a master's degree. Call the parent helpline for support with your most important task, being a leader and a teacher to your child. Find out what's happening in your child's school. Tune into programs produced in your district where today's issues and concerns in education are addressed. explore the world. Take an electronic field trip to distant lands or learn about the story of Sutter Sport right here in River City. SECC offers courses for teenagers as well. Advanced placement math classes for high school students or Japanese and German language classes. Students can call the Homework Helpline for assistance afternoons on Channel 21. There's also programming for teaching. Teleconferences, series and staff development courses help educators keep abreast of the latest in curriculum, techniques, and classroom management. There are many valuable services on Education Cable. Welcome back to the exciting world of learning.
Superintendent George Jeffers of the San Juan Unified School District wanted to be here today to speak to you about K through 12's plans. But because of a major conflict, he couldn't be here in person. So what he has done has been to use the new SECC San Juan video facility to bring his thoughts to you.
Good evening. I'm George Jeffers, Superintendent of the San Juan Unified School District, and I'm coming to you from the set of the district's monthly live community service program, Let's Talk Education. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Commission and Liz Rose of the SECC for being able to talk to you about my vision for the use of television in our schools. I believe television has a tremendous potential for learning. This evening, on our live show, we focused on technology and its applications in our schools. In the show, we talked about the potential for distance learning and also about interactive television. These areas will have significant impact on our schools and the communities that they serve. In addition to these two areas, I'd like to talk about another area where TV can play a significant role in learning in the classroom and at home. Distance learning is an area that San Juan is proud of in this year's series program. We have worked hard to present 2 live programs where students can earn high school credit, both from their local school and even at home. These shows are broadcast daily from classrooms at the San Juan High School. Potential is tremendous in this area, and we view the future to provide greater opportunities for students to take coursework that they otherwise might not be able to obtain. Community involvement is a significant aspect of the impact of television for our schools. Through the community involvement interactive concept, we will be able to poll our community about the issues that are facing our schools and our district today. In addition to these 2 areas, we view television as providing a vehicle to develop model lessons prepared by mentor teachers which can be delivered as part of the regular classroom instruction, or, in the absence of the teacher, provide students with a significant lesson in lieu of a substitute. Finally, this new concept can provide a vehicle for home instruction which will enliven and give greater content to children who are homebound. Television is going to be and is a significant part of learning in the San Juan School District, and I thank you again for the opportunity of sharing with you these concepts and ideas of the future.
Representing the Los Rios Community College District here live is Kirk Wicking, Instructional Developer for Sacramento City College.
Welcome, Kirk. Go right ahead.
Thank you very much. I'd like to begin by thanking Mr. Chairman and the Commission for giving me a few minutes to speak on behalf of Los Rios. And I'd also like to acknowledge Mr. Espastos, the Sacramento Cable Television Company, and SECC, as well as CSUS. I've provided a brief 2-page handout that should be before you that addresses the Los Rios Community College District. This is, in fact, an update of a 5-year synopsis that I had passed out previously a year ago when I had an opportunity to speak to you. In relationship to the dream, I would point to the initiatives, which is about the third item down on the page, the first page there, to tell you that these are the kinds of things with additional funding and the dreams that I think we would be able to achieve through the aid of Sacramento Educational Cable Commission, Sacramento Educational Cable Consortium, excuse me. One thing very quickly I'll call your attention to is our cooperative programming efforts. We've been able to partnership with different organizations, agencies, and entities in the Sacramento area. Where you see the Apple Computer User Group, we were able to provide live on cable television the first national teleconference for Apple computer users. Where you see the ASQC, this is a local group called the American Society for Quality Control. Here was a group that we could partner with in providing information regarding total quality management. The ADA training is something I'm looking forward to in 1992. This deals with the American Disabilities Act, and I'm hoping that next year we'll be able to provide some information, training people live over satellite through some of this type of information. New course development, that list is double what I provided to you last year. I could double it again tomorrow. Part of my dream basically is to bring GE through TV to our community. On the second page, very briefly, I'd just like to call to your attention again things that Sacramento Cable has made possible through the support of the Commission and SECC. You'll notice in the middle of the page, SECC, and underneath it, West Sac. We are now able to provide information, our programming, our courses by television to West Sacramento. You'll notice on the right-hand side where you see CRC, Placerville, Elk Grove, these are part of our system. We're able to work with them and provide services to them. Down towards the bottom, I'm talking about the systems we have, and all I'm trying to point out here is that Sacramento Educational Cable has been the impetus, along with Sacramento Cable Television, the Los Rios, Sacramento State University. They've all invested to provide us a network where we can continue to build upon what we have. I'll leave you with one point in terms of a dream. About 2 months ago, I got to talk to a gentleman at Mule Creek Prison. He's been taking our courses for over 2 years. Unfortunately, they don't have cable at Mule Creek Prison. So he's been trying to watch our courses off lousy TV up there in prison. If we were to receive additional fundings, one of my dreams would be, let's figure out how to get us connected to Mule Creek so we can bring education. I mean, this is just one of our kinds of students, but those are the kinds of things that are being accomplished through this organization. The most important thing is serving our students, and thank you for your time.
Any questions of him?
I have a question. Kirk, I was intrigued by your comment about West Sac and the tie-in with them. Would you elaborate on that a little bit more? Are they taking any of the courses, for example, in West Sac? Are they available over there? To cut right to it, we have a simultaneous feed going to the Sonic cable system in West Sacramento. And I initiated this because we had students from West Sacramento calling and asking why they couldn't get the Sacramento cable television courses. We have been running these programs since September. We do have students in West Sacramento enrolled in our courses. And in the next couple of days, we have announcements going out in all the utility bills to bring them up to date that these courses are available. And I don't know if I answered your question. Yes, you have. How about the PAC West, those cable subscribers? Do they have access at all to the educational programming?
Not to my knowledge.
Is that part of your plan in terms of the future? Not only PAC West, but any other cable company in the region in terms of reaching those students?
I'm continuing to advocate for regionalization because of the diverse populations in the different cities that we serve. Because of the nature of our organization, we're taking that all through the SECC organization. If I could add one final comment, I think the dream here is the continued support of SECC will make it easier for me to tap into the resources of Los Rios to do other things and contribute. Thank you.
Any other comment or question?
A question, and maybe for Rick. Does the cable company in West Sacramento contribute at all to the grants for access and education?
No.
Would it be reasonable to request that they contribute?
Be reasonable to request it. Anything is reasonable. I know that there are discussions with Sonic. They may.
When this was initiated, it was clearly initiated as a pilot, as a sample. There is ongoing discussion and an understanding that this is not a service that will be continued to be provided free. It was initially decided to see, it's a test really to see if it technically could be done.
Seems like a great service.
Yeah. But it's not intended to be free. It's intended, hopefully, that some of those fees that would be assessed through the organization would come back to support Sacramento Educational Cable. That's the intent.
I want to refer to Mr. Thompson, Dr. Thompson. My understanding is that the educational community was discussing participation through that venue, financial participation.
A little later, I'd like to speak to that question, Jim. But at the moment, I'd like to introduce our final speaker, who is Dr. Robert Arianes, Dean of Regional and Continuing Education, California State University, Sacramento.
Thank you, Jay. I want to thank the Commission for the opportunity to address a few words regarding the future. I'd like to confirm that the university is aggressively supporting and developing programs in the area of televised instruction. The university shares the vision which you've heard from the speakers as well as seen on the videotapes. A couple of details perhaps to support that. One, we have been providing free classroom offerings on the basis of approximately 10 hours a week over the past 5 years. Those courses are geared basically or primarily towards the K-12 teachers. What we've done is we meet periodically with representatives of school districts, ask them, what do you think your teachers need? And then we seek to provide the classes which take place in a live classroom situation and are televised at an appropriate time, convenient time to teachers. A couple of examples right now. Obviously, the high schools are moving towards a new curriculum, calls for a religious module. Many high school teachers know very little about some of the esoteric religions throughout the world, and so what we've done is we've made available to them a course on world religions offered at a convenient time, taught by some of our outstanding faculty. We've offered other classes like that, and it's on the basis of something on the order of 10 hours a week. We've also obtained funding from outside sources to develop programming which has been aimed at meeting a need of the general Sacramento County community. For example, currently, every Thursday night, some of you might have seen a program on substance abuse that's been funded by the U.S. Department of Education. It's an over a $500,000 grant, and it's a team effort, so to speak. What we have are the obviously the university, in particular Health and Human Services. John Colin, Dean there, some of you might know him, has been very active in this area. Sacramento Educational Cable Corporation, and of course my operation, Regional and Continuing Education. Now, this leads me into a point here that I think is very important for all of us to understand. Having the educational cable and having an educational cable corporation or commission and having these variety of educational players really gives us a strong hand in obtaining outside funding. The U.S. Department of Education grant isn't the only one we've obtained. We've gotten money from elsewhere as well. What has made it given us a much stronger case is this teamwork effort, and I think the commission here, the Cable Commission, should keep that in mind. Is what you're doing is you're giving us the opportunity to go before national funding, state funding sources, and say we've got a team effort, we've got an outstanding educational cable organization, and we're prepared to provide so much in the way of resources from our side of it, whether it's in kind or otherwise, and a few people will come up with some outside money. We're looking to expand our educational televising in the next 5 years. We've had a consultant look at our televised instruction effort on campus, Bob Wyman. Many of you know him. He's made his recommendations. We've changed our infrastructure somewhat so as to gear up to meet off-campus educational needs. Clearly, Sacramento educational cable operation is going to play a vital part. We're going to move heavily into general education, upper division courses. I think the entire community benefits from a televised instruction effort. I don't have to tell some of you that we have some parking problems on our campus. I don't have to tell you that we have an air pollution problem in our community. And when we televise courses and grant university credit for them, when we make our faculty resources available to the community, for example, with respect to some of our like the substance abuse program, the integrating the language arts program, which some of you may have seen, the Journey Through Time program, which you saw just briefly there on the video. I think the entire community benefits in a number of ways beyond, obviously, the immediate effect of academic credit. Thank you for the opportunity to be for you.
Are there any questions or comments for him? Okay.
If I could address very briefly your question about regionalization and other cable systems. What I would hope for the future is that the programming that is coming from Sacramento Educational Cable Consortium could be made available to all outlying communities who wish to participate. And participation would mean receiving the programs, but also contributing their fair share to the costs involved. Each of the K through 12 districts pays a fee to SECC based on the ADA. We get money from the commission for our activities. So we can figure out per student how much comes from the commission and how much comes from individual school districts. If other cable systems were to join and other communities were to join, we would expect that the school districts also pay the appropriate fee, and then a like amount of funding come from some other source which would represent the contribution that comes from you. So that it would mean that everybody in this network would be putting in an appropriate share of funding to make the system work. I've talked very briefly with Dean Darlin, who's a general manager of United Artists Cable at Davis, and we are exploring the possibility and potential of bringing SECC programming into the Davis area. We have Woodland north of Davis, we have Dixon south of us, and there are other communities too that have the potential of being able to utilize and share the programming that comes from this organization. The university would like to be sending programming into the greater Sacramento area. We have currently in development 4 channels of ITFS, Instructional Television Fixed Service, which will be coming into Sacramento through Pac West. And my hope in the future is that commercial concerns like Pac West and Sacramento Cable Television will allow educational materials, educational programs to flow through and between systems, so that no matter what system you are on, you will have access to these instructional materials, and that the commercial competitiveness which is necessary for their commercial businesses can be set aside when it comes to getting instructional materials to students and to the general public. I haven't talked to Kim about that yet, but he's heard it for the first time right here. But I will be speaking with him about it in the future as we develop this system with Pac West and hopefully other organizations around the Sacramento area.
Jay, what is, do you know kind of what is the per student amount of money that comes from the districts? I'd be interested in knowing that.
Okay, I'm going to ask Liz that, and she should have that.
Our membership districts.
Question, please.
I'm sorry?
Repeat the question.
The question was,
How much money do the school districts actually contribute per student? I would just
okay, it's 35 cents per student. That money is very specifically earmarked within our budget for programming. And that has been a special request by the districts.
Per year, that would be.
Per year.
Per year.
And then there's also a fee for the universities and the community colleges, in addition to their line item budgets, which you have seen, I think, in our past budgets, that kind of thing.
Good.
And there's also a heavy in-kind contribution from the members of SECC. So the point of all of this is that if we're able to bring other communities into the system, they would be expected to pay their fair share to keep the programming going and the system operating.
But that would probably be that 35 cents per student. Yeah.
Yes, that would be one of the elements. So if you come into a district of 10,000 students, you would expect them to pay that same ADA rate if they were to receive the benefits of the SECC programming. That way, the efforts of this commission and the funds coming from this commission and other sources would not be subsidizing other organizations' instructional educational efforts.
It seems to me that per student is probably a more fair way to distribute the programming so that some of the smaller school districts could participate and there wouldn't be a flat fee. You know, a large school district could easily, you know, pay a flat fee, but I think for some of these little tiny school districts per student makes a lot better sense.
We've had a lot of board discussion with superintendents and others, and this did appear to be the most equitable way to be able to charge districts for these services.
Thank you.
Another question. Jay, the third channel, I'm intrigued with channel 23. You don't need that until 1996, or is that what I read in your report?
It's kind of a chicken and egg thing, Terry. If the university began its programming in the near future and Los Rios Community College increased the courses that it has to offer, and Bob Arianis and CSUS increase their courses, we could very easily utilize that third channel. But it does take additional funding, and it would take a slight increase in the SECC staff to be able to cover all of the administration and programming of that system. So to try to give you a direct answer, if we had the funding now, we would, in a very short time, be able to appropriately utilize that third channel. But again, it's a chicken and egg. But if we can get this regional network together, and by this I also mean adding additional interactive classrooms to the system, like you saw an example there with San Juan. We would have many additional sources of programming, all available at the same time, all valuable, and filling those three channels.
Just one comment, Oral. I'm intrigued by the regionalization of what we're providing, and I see it beyond education. And as we talk further about a 5-year plan and what we'll be doing in the future, I'd like us to keep that in mind, not only for educational purposes, but for public access purposes as well. And then maybe the grantees can be a stimulus for the political entities to work through our borders, our boundaries, and maybe come up with something quite unique in the country regarding that kind of effort. I think it's an opportunity we shouldn't let go. So I'd like to pursue that as we talk about the next 5 years.
Yeah. Other comments or questions?
If I could just give you a brief summation. If SECC were to receive additional funding, we would expand and supplement the many services we are now providing. This would include many more live classes and programs to provide educational opportunities to all segments of the Sacramento community. And unless you're tired of hearing me tell you this, let me close by saying thank you for your excellent and continued strong support in SECC and the educational services we are providing the greater Sacramento area. All of us deeply appreciate your understanding and your support.
Thank you, Jay. You know, there is a silent partner that we don't think of very often, but Sacramento Cable is the one who provides us with the opportunity to spread the message through the channels that they have allocated for access as a part of their original offer when they came to Sacramento County. It's easy to forget that if we did not have those channels, we would not be sitting here today discussing these proposals and dreams. So our thanks to Sacramento Cable Company all over again. Let's move now to KVIE's presentation, Dan Tillman.
That's all.
It won't bite, it just hums.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Fletcher. By the way, I couldn't agree with you more on your last comment. Good afternoon, Commission members, Rich, Mr. Blair. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to come and talk with you today and dream a little bit with you. I guess because I'm an administrator, it's just in my nature to also take a practical look at some of our realities. When we prepared our fiscal 91 report and our fiscal 92 plan for you in August, we did just that. Included in the 92 plan was a financial forecast based on our current grant and our fiscal experience. The financial analysis reveals two significant issues. First, our service grant of just over $100,000 annually to operate a 24-hour-a-day program service does not fully support that service. KVIE subsidizes the service through facility space, programming, product, engineering, and administrative support, like me. In-kind support for the service was over $200,000 in fiscal 91. Second, a multi-year financial forecast was prepared based on historical information. The analysis reveals that unless the grant allocation is increased, we may not be able to continue the current level of service that we're providing beyond fiscal 95. Other practical realities deal with issues like aging equipment and new delivery systems. It was within that framework that we developed our vision for fiscal 92, our current program plan. The very positive aspects of that plan include a new channel position on Sacramento Cable, new instructional and educational programming, and perhaps most importantly, the localized community service campaign created for use on our air between programs. Breaks between programs on the 24-hour service now inform viewers about local public transportation systems, AIDS education, literacy activist opportunities, and human rights. We have anecdotal and statistical evidence the program service and the community service campaign are heavily valued by Sacramento Cable customers who are, in fact, our customers. Our contacts, calls, and letters have tripled. And the grantee partnership that was formed to jointly produce the program guide faces the high-class problem of going over budget this year because of the increased number of requests for that guide. The Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Commission, Sacramento Cable, and KVIE make this valued community service possible. If I can only dream a little, I'd ask the Commission to assure the continuation of a very good, highly valued service in the future. Now, if I can dream a lot, let's talk about enhancing the value of that service. Let me talk to you about locally produced programs, about increasing the use of the service, about increasing the value of the local community service campaign, and about new technologies. The Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission, Sacramento Cable, make it possible to extend the use of the tremendous resource that you have in your local public television station. You have the unique opportunity of doing even more. KVIE, as you all know, has a marvelous facility. We have the foundation. We have the hard walls. We have the space. We have the equipment and resources. We have, without question, the talent and the experience to produce high-quality, important local programming. To use those talents and those resources does cost money. I'm back to that basic reality. If you consider allocations of new resources in the future, please consider leveraging those resources that you have at your disposal to expand the use and the value of that facility. What is my vision? Educators have identified families as an essential factor in the success of their students. Wouldn't it be wonderful to develop a series with outreach components to help families that develop mentally, emotionally, and physically healthier children, to teach families how to use television services to enrich their lives, and to educate, to teach families how to become involved in their children's education, how to teach the importance of building their self-esteem. There's endless possibilities. And what if we could expand, if we had a vehicle through television of being able to analyze and translate in lay terms the meaning of new legislation and ballot initiatives to the lives of our local residents? What if we could present an objective assessment of local, state, and national candidates for office? Perhaps we could convince people to vote. Last year, we allocated some of our grant that we received from you to produce a series called Memories. That series is being distributed nationally in January to public television stations across the country and to the Learning Channel in schools. In February, on the 50th anniversary of the Japanese internment, viewers across the nation will see Gemon, the internment remembered. Those are our possibilities. This year, we could not allocate any of those dollars to locally produced programs. We need every single dollar of our grant to operate. What is my vision? A dedicated production team for Channel 7. Now let's talk about increasing the use of that service. How would we do it? We do it through promotion, publicity, advertising, and outreach. Again, KVIE has the experience and the expertise, targeted mailings, press releases, strategically placed advertising, and outreach. Outreach like identifying community leaders who should gather in our community room to view a program on AIDS in the workplace, people who can partner and act locally on that information. The value of the service can be enhanced by increasing the use of the service. Let's extend the value of our local community service between programs. We currently rely on pre-produced materials we solicit from local agencies and organizations for use on the channel between our programs. With a dedicated production team, we could create the materials for many worthwhile agencies and service providers in our local communities who have neither the expertise or the resources to do it themselves. We can extend the value and the use of our resources. And finally, would you like to dream a lot? New technologies like fiber optics and digital compression are going to change the world as we know it, and soon. A Brooklyn cable system is putting 150 channel service online today. They aren't the first. New technologies are going to bring us high-definition television, and interactive television will become as familiar to us as a remote control. Public television is the undisputed leader in the development of the use of new technologies for education. KVIE's chief engineer will sit on a national task force to evaluate the new multi-channel environment and its application in delivering educational services. Now, wouldn't it be just wonderful for Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission, Sacramento Cable, and KVIE to form a partnership to be the early providers of HDTV, delivered by fiber optics to the cable head end, to be used for interactive educational application. Our dreams are limited only by the resources available. Our imagination has no limits. The opportunities are, at least in part, at your disposal. Mr. Fletcher visited our facility this summer. We really appreciated the opportunity to show off a little and have the benefit of his vision. I'd like to extend the invitation to visit us to each and every one of you. Thank you.
Questions and comments?
I have a question. I'm intrigued with the idea of your dreaming, Jan. I think now's a chance for us to do that, to put together some plans, particularly based around the facilities that I have seen at 6. They're wonderful. And I'm just wondering, how we could better utilize that throughout this whole community, not just with KVIE, but the other public access education and all the other needs that we have in this community. And I'm intrigued with that idea. Interesting.
Well, we certainly could explore it further.
Good.
Be glad to.
Yeah, I think we have an opportunity.
I think how we make a proposal, right?
Yes.
You have to hear something from the rest, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Thank you then for your presentation, and you haven't heard the last of us for sure. we'll respond.
Thanks.
The final presenter this afternoon in the Access Channel grouping is Richard Esposito, who's going to present the Cable Commission sponsorship.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and fellow bosses. I'm going to speak to you today wearing 2 hats. One as the manager of Metro Cable 61, which you see here, and also as your chief bureaucrat regarding overall community programming. Again, as elected officials, I know you're familiar with the tedium of meetings such as these. In the last quarter, we cablecast over 150 hours from this chamber. The budget for Metro Cable 65 is approximately $165,000 a year. I'm not here today to ask for additional funds, though. There's some other things I want, and funding for 61 isn't one of them. First, I'd like your help. Your help. After much staff work, Diane's been able to secure a contract with SMUD, and SMUD is now being carried on the system. We've made overtures to other organizations, which many of you, by organizations, boards, and commissions, which many of you serve on. I'd like your help in opening those doors and getting that access. I'd like to see RT, school boards, planning, on the channel. I believe that what 61 is doing is the essence of democracy in the electronic age. We've made staff overtures. It takes a while. We need some top-down help in making that possible. You can tell the other executive directors that I will make it happen as economically as possible. We know from Diana's reported that we can do the coverage for SMUD cheaper than they can themselves by the way we operate. I will offer that any other executive director will get the best deal possible from us. Second, I'd like for Metro Cable 61 a little more policy changes to try some new things. Our programming policies, which you approved year before last, are very conservative. We don't push or expand much. I look to an opportunity for staff possibly to comment live before a meeting on the issues before you, and policies to be developed where on a lottery or rotating basis, one of you or several of you could close a meeting with your comments live on the channel about what happened. Don't want to enter into or use the channel as a First Amendment speaker and probe you like a newscaster would, but to use the channel for information purposes, giving you as elected officials an opportunity to put something out there to people that are watching. I think the policies could be developed. There could be plenty of opportunity to experiment and test with those, but I don't think it's very difficult or very expensive to accomplish. Third thing I'd like to see for Metro Cable 61 is some new technologies, some simple things to try. For less than $500, we could put a phone patch in this chamber. What it says is, and anticipating how government will deal with the ADA, the American Disabilities Act, the potential that by pre-arrangement, someone who could not get to this chamber to address you could speak to you by telephone. The cost of that, I estimate, is less than $500, but it's a policy issue that do we want that? Once the capability is here, it may be that the county exec, who we all know looks great on TV, other department heads may want to use the opportunity to speak to subscribers. I look to the day when Tim and I would do a call-in and talk about cable issues and problems live from a chamber such as this. So those are three things I'd like to see for Metro Cable 61. The biggest one would be your help in getting access to other boards and commissions. Now to change hats. You've deemed me responsible for the overall operation of community programming in the sense that I feel that if something goes wrong, I'm going to hear about it first and you're going to hold me responsible. I have comments in the areas of accountability, efficiency, and effectiveness for community programming. Our community programming grantees are community-based organizations whose funding is renewed annually by you. Our oversight role is minimal. We do not get too deep into their operations, and we design things that way. I recommended to you 2 years ago that the grantees comply with an audit requirement in that they audit themselves by an independent CPA and file that audit with us. That's just occurred as of November 1st, and there are no remarkable comments, no problems there. But that was the first step. In my experience, community-based organizations after 4 or 5 years tend to stray a bit. We haven't had that problem yet, fortunately, because there are good governing boards in our grantees and excellent management. But the reality is that goals sometimes are confused, and we miss track of some of the administrative things. Not to overregulate, if you will, but I believe that we need to look at standardized boilerplate bylaws, rules and procedures for travel reimbursement, personnel compensation, and the purchasing policies for our grantees. These are effectively quasi-governmental entities. Some of the same, we should have requirements, I believe, for things like open meetings, meeting scheduling, agendas, etc. So I look to your acceptance of this idea as one thing we need to move forward from the accountability standpoint. And the second topic in the area of efficiency, I say that we, and I have a philosophy that follows that, we can always do more with what we've got. I'd like to see the Commission, in the programming sense, set more specific goals in each year's annual plan. I've discussed it with Brent. We have the authority to contract for broad types of programming. We must stay out of specific programming issues. But if it was the desire of the Commission to see more programming about music and less about art, or vice versa, you have that authority. I believe we should begin to contract for that in our negotiations each year with the grantees. Put a little more specificity in the types of programming you want to see on the system. Next, I think we should allow the grantees some more room to take advantage of the commercial sales of their programming. Our current channel use agreements take a very conservative approach, which was appropriate at the time we wrote them, to commercial use. Right now we say that a grantee can only receive revenue up to the cost of that particular program. I believe we should experiment with a policy to expand that. Audit it, watch it, track it. But if one of our grantees is successful in marketing a program, they should be allowed to secure traditional revenues from it, providing that those revenues are audited, tracked, and go back into the operation of the organization. It may be that we need some rules along this line that a so-called commercial use not be provided if it's for Sacramento County. But if Dallas wants to buy one of the programs because of its quality, let Dallas pay market rates, and let's use the money back in the system. Right now, our grant agreement prohibits that. I think we need to change that. Third, I think we can do a better job of sharing resources amongst and between the community programming grantees. We have an excellent relationship with Access. We exchange equipment, we trade equipment. We've recently shared staff with SECC. The channel managers, as you've heard expressed, have developed the combined community programming guide. My numbers show that after 3 months on a $30,000 project, we're within $25 of budget. We've increased the exposure for Metro Cable 61 by a factor of 4 with no increase in cost. I think we can do more of those type of things. While the grantee organizations are effectively separated between government, public access, and education, we're all doing a little bit of each, I believe, functionally, and there's a lot of crossover. We need to look at ways to become more efficient in that regard. The chairs mentioned it, but let's not forget that the way our community programming organization structure came about was in 1983, based on Chuck Dolan's proposal, the Cablevision proposal. Don't forget that that proposal assumed funding roughly equivalent to 1 day's revenue for the cable company, or $250,000 a month for community programming activities. We're operating right now on less than a third of that. Still a lot of money. We're putting $1 million a year into community programming. But does the structure fit the funding level as we reflect upon where we are today and where to be a few years hence? Finally, effectiveness. This spring, we gathered data on the number of viewers who were aware or had watched our community programming channels. My philosophy or my idea is that if we can make decisions about programming, we should build some type of a feedback loop into the process. And that if you embark on the idea of contracting for specific types of programming, we should also contract for some type of evaluation component. We need feedback to our decisions. And that feedback should be something having to do with who's watching and how that particular programming was regarded. So I think we should explore the idea that some percentage of our funding allocation be used for evaluation, collecting data and making decisions based on data. In closing, I'd like your help on expanding and improving Metro Cable 61. I'm not asking for more funding. And that for the larger picture, I think we can do more with less, and it's time for a little push. Thanks.
Comments or questions?
I just had one quick thing. As Rich and I were talking about this the other day, and I cannot tell you the number of times I've been asked for RT to be put on cable. And the other commission is the Sacramento Unified School District. Or I've gone to meetings where 10 and 15 people will come up to me and say, and of course it is that school district that I represent, but have said, we would really like to see that on cable, because I think a lot of parents are interested. So those two, I've really had lots of people ask, why can we?
This is why I think we need your help. It isn't, I don't believe it's a staff level problem. I think on a personal basis, the other elected officials need to know that the lights don't freeze you, that the meetings don't go longer, that you individually, personally, have overcome the consciousness of the cameras. We have done several pro bono cable casts of the school district, but haven't been able to keep it going. There have been overtures to RT, just hasn't clicked. We could make it work. I'll tell you that if those become routine, I would be soon talking with SAC Cable about trying to make arrangements to put those on live, so that we could make it happen now.
Well, that was my question, Rich. If we were to convince RT and the school boards in this vicinity to be on cable, would it be live? And if it were, what channel? I mean, you don't have capacity on 61.
It really depends on what date it is. If it's a Tuesday, it's not going to happen. Tuesdays are booked fairly tight. On a Wednesday or Thursday, depending on the time, yeah, we would be able to carry it live. Anything from this chamber or your city council chamber, of course, we can go live immediately. Our costs are minimal. If we need to roll the truck, it becomes a little more expensive, and we have to tape. Someday, maybe there'll be access points in the system, some other ways of getting live feedback back in. SMUD is very close to the access to 42nd and T. Right. I think a link between SMUD's chambers and there needs to be talked about fairly soon.
Rich, one more thing as long as I've got the floor here. I would like to see a copy of Chuck Dolan's. I remember when he presented that idea, and I'd like to read that again. Would you find that somewhere in the archives?
Yes, thanks to Nancy and Diane. As we've moved, the archives are now very organized. And I actually pulled out some things lately and had a chance to look at.
I'd like a copy.
Yeah, recall it was $1.25 a month per subscriber. Other questions?
Yeah, a question.
Just right.
The idea of the phone is intriguing. I have a concern it might extend meetings, but it certainly would be a public service.
I think we could deal with the policies that it would only be used on a prearranged basis.
Yeah.
That if someone who could not be here that you wanted to hear from could patch in and the room could hear, the TV audience would hear. And if you didn't want to use it, it would be sitting in the back. My point is that it's a technical capability that doesn't have big cost.
Sounds like it might be a real.
And I've read a few summaries so far, but we as government have not begun to deal with the ADA yet. And that has some very interesting aspects come first of the year. As I look at our organization, that's one way we would show our compliance.
And that is absolutely true. The city and RT and the county are starting to deal with the Federal Disability Act. And we are going to try to put on a conference because it's a civil right. And I think you're absolutely right. We just the tip of the iceberg. We're doing a lot in the transportation area because those people with disabilities have to have the same equal transportation system as other people. But I think we're going to have to deal with the idea of communication. And maybe that's something that 61 could actually deal with also as that conference goes forward, because I think it will affect every single one of our lives and every program that exists today. We're going to have a better way of making these things available to all people in the community. And I think we should be a real important part of that.
Let's find out when that conference is and see if we can get on the channel.
Yeah, good.
Finished?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, Rich. This closes the presentation of item number 1 on community programming. We have in our possession as commission members much more material than you obtained orally today. And if copies of that are needed, Rich, could we arrange with your office to make them available to the audience, the greater amount of detail, should someone want it?
Upon request, of course.
Okay. We're going to move then to item number 2.
Well, before we move, what's our next step with this? We've heard some great ideas today. All of the grantees had some super ideas. Do we want to put this on the agenda again? Do you want to hear from us individually? What do we do next, Chairman?
I would presume, and this is only a partial answer, but in asking for this, what I had in mind was that we then take these ideas, that our executive director begin talking with those grantees who have a plan, and that we bring this back at our March meeting to see where we can begin to put the whole matrix together so that we are more effective, so that we do expand, and then in the new budget year, see if we can make a little of the dream come true. Okay. But it's up to commission members. This is what I've expressed.
I would like to hear midway between now and March, Rich, what progress you're making, what ideas specifically you've gleaned upon, and what some of the other grantees might think of, even some of the suggestions that you've made that overlap a lot of the grantees. A lot's been said today, and I'd really like to see some movement in this direction. So, if you could check with me sometime, before March, to see how your progress is going, I'd appreciate it.
It would seem to me that this topic is going to be a continuous item on our agenda from now on, to make it move and to keep us interested in depth, and to eventually evolve a master plan that engages all of the grantees in its conception and putting it into action. I can see that this is the way we want to move. See, in the past, what we've had is 1 year's experience many times. Now we're going to change it around, and that is many experiences and a new experience each year as we grow and learn, and the technology changes, and our own ambition gets a new burst of speed too, and that's where we are today. Is there anything more you'd like to say about item number 1?
Very well done.
All right. Item number 2 is notice public hearing, amended customer cable service regulation. I have a statement here reverting to our meeting on October 17th when we voted for Sacramento Cable's last-minute settlement offer. You chanced that having gotten SCT's attention, we could get something better for cable consumers than anything an enforcement hearing could provide. And so we canceled that enforcement hearing. And as drafted by our council, the October 17th action required SCT to do several things to calm our ire, and they included sending an interim disclosure to all the subscribers, paying a $59,200 penalty, offering subscribers a remote control rebate, and working toward a set of just and reasonable customer service regulations. And I'm pleased to report that SCT has complied in all respects, and that we appreciate. And before you is a copy of proposed customer service regulations, which I understand SCT is willing to abide by. And Rich, would you summarize the regulations for us?
Happily, Mr. Chairman. It's been an intensive last 4 or 5 weeks, but right now I'd like to provide you with a summary of the cable television customer service regulations as we have completed discussions and negotiations and interpretations with Sacramento Cable. I'll begin by saying I'm quite pleased, and I think we've come a long way. I have 6 key points to describe, then I'll turn back to the chair order, Mr. Blair. First, regarding the issue of telephone standards. The telephone standard is such that it's 30 seconds average time to a human being, to a customer service rep, over 90% of the time. For you, this means that there are going to, by being an average, there'll be some times that subscribers will wait a while, a minute. But it says that the majority of the times, to offset that, the subscriber will be answered by customer service rep on the first pop, or right there. We have made provisions in the regulations for the automatic response units. I felt that's a reasonable rationale. Government uses those, et cetera, et cetera. But the 30-second standard to a human being is our standard now, 90% of the time. A quite favorable standard. I'm happy with that. Appointment scheduling. This is an area that I held very strongly with in consultations with the chair, and in fact, in negotiations with this was like one of the top 2 priorities.
So what was that again?
Appointment scheduling, appointment response. Sac Cable has agreed that all appointments will occur within 7 days of the request, and if the company misses the appointment, the subscriber will get a credit to their account equivalent to their basic rate. If they take basic service, they get $21. If they take limited basic, starting January, they would get a $10 credit to their account. All appointments, something we negotiated quite carefully, one of the offsetting things, all appointments will be initially offered on a business day basis by the company. Their business day varies, but that's generally an 8 to 9 hour day, 6 days a week, possibly 7 later on. But subscribers will be noticed a minimum of 3 times a year of the right to request a 4-hour appointment. I pushed hard for the 4-hour on a solid basis, but in lengthy discussions, heated and harder ones with Cindy, I'm convinced that this is a fair compromise and that not everyone needs a 4-hour appointment. Some people are available 8 hours, and if they can take an 8-hour, an all-day scheduling, and the people that need a 4-hour have a higher chance of being successful. I think it's an excellent standard, and with the notifications provided, it fits with my philosophy that customers have to do some of this job. We can't do it all. They need to read the notices that they receive. We secured a fair and timely process for voluntary disconnection of cable, restoration to the pre-cable condition, that means getting your own antenna hooked up, and patching the hole in the floor of the wall if the customer so requests. Outage rebate. This is an area that was very, again, a fun one to deal with, but also very difficult. I proposed originally that we have an automatic rebate in the case of an outage. After listening to the company's realistic, practical problems with dealing with that, I backed off the automatic aspect. The reasons why, if there is an outage, the company doesn't have a computer way, a systematic way of identifying who's impacted. Yes, if the outage happened to hit a power supply, they know that everybody beyond that could be counted on a map or a computer. Mm-hmm. But if the outage were triggered by, say, a pole accident, they have to go out and count. It's the best analogy I can make. It's sort of like standing back looking at a tree and figuring out which branch the trees are on. And so I agreed to back off from that. Separately, in an automatic credit mode, the company would have to go through, and for the people identified as being impacted by the outage, they would have to input the credit one at a time in each person's account. I understood the rationale for that. What I've accepted and what I'm recommending, and this is an instance where, in discussions with the chair prior to negotiations, I had authority to negotiate lower than what we've accepted. So I think we have a very good standard here. It is such that now any outage in excess of 4 hours, which the company is responsible for, triggers a 1-day credit for each 4-hour increment. That is, the company gets 4 hours to fix an outage. And then for every piece of 4 hours after that, you get 1 30th or 1/31st of your bill, excluding taxes, credited back to your account. At point of reference, the 1983 Cablevision franchise, which we all signed and agreed to, had a 24-hour standard and applied in 24-hour increments. I see this as a very good consumer protection. The point to remind you of here on the record is that the amended regulations, the original regulations, do not address the issue of an outage for which the company had no control. The distinction I'll make here is if a cable company engineer pours a Coke in the main switch at the head end and the system goes down, the company is responsible for that and the rebates apply. If lightning hits the head end and the system goes down, we have no requirement on the cable company to provide a rebate in that outage. My belief there is that the marketplace under acts of God should dictate. And that's SAC Cable's problem in dealing with their subscribers on that basis. The point for us is that we're advising subscribers when there is an outage to report it to the company. That'll be our policy. If it exceeds the 4-hour limit, they get a credit. When we know of the outages in our office, we'll verify and follow up on a sampling basis that the credits were posted. I think we're way ahead and consumers are very adequately protected. Next is the area of disclosure. Basically, the disclosure language from the March 7th regulations remains intact. We've made, again, to confirm, full disclosure of rates and charges and their general billing practices upon any change in rates or programming 30 days in advance. Customers will have 60 days from receipt of the disclosure, from mailing of the disclosure, to downgrade a premium service without charge. I did agree that outside of the 60-day period, a customer who has 12 rather than 6 months of stable service can downgrade a premium service without charge. No new disclosure is required for minor changes in billing practices. However, I do expect and have agreement that the Commission will know what those are, and we're categorizing general billing practices, when bills are due, et cetera, from minor changes, how a promotional program is being administered. Again, it's been a very rewarding experience in the last several weeks. Not only did the interim rate disclosure go out per your order on schedule, but week before last, SAC Cable approached me with a draft disclosure of programming changes, which we reviewed, approved. They were sent out, and all of you should have gotten the changes now that showed that CNN is moving down onto limited basic, et cetera. So the process is working already. I reviewed those documents, approved them, they were distributed to subscribers, and followed with that was an official filing with the Commission saying this is what we did. So that process of disclosure is working like it is exactly supposed to work. You also notice that the company is adding Encore Comedy and a few other channels. Those changes are falling into place. Disclosure was the backbone, the meat of our regulations, and there's been no significant changes to that whatsoever. Finally, as proposed to you today, and because of the in-depth nature of what was there, we have not completed discussions relative to remedies and enforcement. That's something primarily addressed by the attorneys. SAC Cable's attorney gave us all the time he could, but he's been in a full-time trial since a few days after our last meeting. So I'm recommending that the Commission approve in concept all the substantive agreement relative to the customer service regulations, but that we be given some more time and some more latitude to resolve the issues of remedies and enforcement. There are not major issues here. I think our rationale and our understandings are clear. What I'm looking for, especially after the experience of the enforcement hearing last time, and falling back on the process we use for for construction-related problems in 84, 85, and 86, is that I want to see built into the enforcement process an administrative law judge, an outsider, to review the facts and present those in a recommendation to you. We just haven't had time to work that out yet. I think there's plenty of, there is not a major polarity there. We just haven't completed it. In summary, pursuant to the actions of October 17th, we have reached just and reasonable agreement on the substance of the regulations. This is where I'd hoped we would be a year ago today. If you recall, this is a year ago today when the earlier process in adopting customer service standards took an about face. It's taken time, But the result for us will be a remarkable payback over time that I think we can all live with. The regulations, I believe, now are reasonable. With that, I'm pleased to recommend them to you. We have some specific steps to take next for you. Any questions?
I have a question, Orville. Rich, on the thing that has not been finished, the remedies and enforcement, that you don't see any problems there. You think that could be resolved very quickly once you get the attorney's time and attention?
Yes. The other issues we dealt with were much more sensitive, much more understanding. Here, I think it's a basis of just getting the time to pieces together.
Okay.
Brent, do you feel? You won't predict.
It's very difficult to say. I've had a couple discussions with Mr. Moorhead about it. Suffice it to say, I don't think we agree at this point, but there's certainly a basis for agreement. I don't think that is as important a matter as the substantive matters that Rich has already solved. So I think that there's certainly grounds for optimism, but it ain't over till it's over, is something to say.
Right.
Who said that? Was that a question? I would like to ask Mr. Ruckert, representing the Sacramento Cable Television and for its corporate parent, to come forward for comment. And I'm going to ask you this question, Tim. Are these customer service regulations something that you can conceptually agree to and abide by in the future on behalf of your corporate parents as well as yourself?
Well, obviously, I want to say the answer to your question is yes, and that I think that Richard and Cindy Simonson have worked, and Brent, of course, have worked day and night, literally day and night for the last 4, 5, 6 weeks. I have been in the loop every minute of the way and have been informed and been involved in the decisions that they have and agreements that they have reached. I do not see anything conceptually that could be a problem. If they were implemented today, I think with a very brief period of time, we could be in compliance in all areas and could continue to be in compliance and improve upon those areas every step of the way. One of the things that we were obviously extremely concerned about would be to have regulations that would go into effect and knowing that we could not comply with them verbatim as they are written. And I think that Rich has certainly worked with us, bent over backwards to spend the time, whatever it took, no matter how difficult it got. And so did you, Chairman, and I appreciate that also, to be there when we needed you along the way to make sure that we could get to some understanding that we could live with and work with in the future. So as it is written today, with the exception, of course, the review, just the normal review of our attorney, I think that we certainly could work well within these regulations. And I use the word regulations.
Excellent. Any comment to Kim while we're at the microphone?
I'd just like to comment that I was happy to see surveying my bill, information that came in my last cable bill. I was very pleased with that.
Thank you.
Any other?
Well, I'm pleased that we've come to kind of a meeting of the minds. I think that it's better for all of us to work our problems out, not only for the commission, but also for all the people in the community. So thank you, Lee, and thank you, Kim, for working with our staff.
You're very welcome.
Your words were most welcome, Kim, and they summarized for all of us, I do believe. Thank
Great.
you very much.
I'd like to say I just haven't had any complaints in the last few months in my office, and I think they're providing good service.
Well, that is exactly what we're striving for, and the one thing that the regulations and previously before that, the guidelines, the whole purpose of this was to get to excellent customer service, and we want the exact same goals that you want. We do make mistakes along the way. The idea is to fix them as you go along the way, and that is our intention. We want to be here a long time into the future, and we're not here. We're not a short-term company. We don't have short-term ideas. I listened today to some phenomenal vision And the visions are dwarfed by our visions, I can assure you, although they are certainly in sync with our vision also. And my company's dedication to education is very well stated and is not going to stop. I do have a few things I would say, but this may not be the appropriate time to do it. I will also tell you that we today have just contributed through our subscriber base, and I guess we really thank the subscribers, the new customers that have come on board. We just gave approximately 5,000 toys today to Toys for Tots for the first 2 weeks. We will probably give somewhere between 15 and 20,000 toys to Sacramento, to the needy children. We are obviously making great strides in our channel realignment. Rich did say CNN, but it actually is C-SPAN that is moving down. And of course, that was based upon surveys and polls and listening to subscribers as well as yourself that our customers wanted C-SPAN on limited basic, and therefore they're going to limited basic. And the point that we're trying to make is that we are listening to our subscribers. We are listening to their needs, as you may have already known and should be aware of soon. Monday morning, we'll open up a $250,000 operation over in Pell Drive that will finally, after almost a year of rebuilding and renovation, be able to operate a new customer service lobby for our customers to expedite their payments and questions on a one-on-one basis. It even has been rolled out, and we're going to be inviting you over to see this in the very near future, but we've even included children's area where they can play while their parents are coming in to deal with us, product and information for customers, and hopefully quickly pay point locations all over the city for them to quickly pay their bills without having to mail them to us, and try to make life a little bit easier and faster for our customers to work in this very high-tech environment. And of course, we are entertaining looking at relocating our entire offices in the next 2 years and moving to a more suitable location for customers. And that is a very, very expensive and important project for us. And again, we now currently employ approximately 400 people. And in our vision as a company, easily we will reach 600 and 800 employees in the next 5 to 6 years. Talking about fiber optics, I think I mentioned at the last meeting, although it may have been easily hidden by all the things that were going on. Galt will be one of our first fiber optic runs. 16 miles of fiber optics. The TVRO site will be fibered next year, and our company will invest outside of operating expense nearly $15 million more in this community in our operation, and that doesn't mean in expense. That means in deployment of converter equipment, new converters. We have signed an agreement with Scientific Atlanta. We no longer will be using the current scrambling devices. We will deploy fiber, build our operation to a much greater degree, and that's a fairly substantial amount to be spending locally in Sacramento on any kind of business. And then, of course, looking at roughly operational expenses of $50 million next year. So Sacramento will see expenses by our company in the neighborhood of $50 to $65 million next year.
Great. That won't be another rate increase, will it?
They've already got the rate increase. I've already heard all those complaints, but
we just hear them again.
Whatever it takes, it'll be there. But we hope not. But I never make those type of commitments to no rate increases. I will tell you, though, I am glad to find out that we are substantially less than any major city in the state of California.
Is that right?
That's right, substantially, by as many as $2 and $3 less. Yes.
Yeah, it's my understanding, too, that your penetration rate is higher in this community than in many communities.
Absolutely. And in the shortest period of time, this is probably the largest cable system ever built in the shortest period of time and has the greatest amount of penetration in that period of time.
So because of that higher penetration rate, I think that it is appropriate that we try to keep the rates down.
I think that's an admirable statement, and that is ultimately the intent, but return on investment is also important as a business.
How many connections now?
We have currently 206,000 customers and pass some 425,000 homes.
All of that is good news, Kim. Just feel free to talk anytime when you bring those messages to us.
I have been bringing a lot of good ones lately. And thank you, too.
Well, back to Rich now for recommendations as to how we shall close out this topic this day, and you'll have a chance to discuss it.
Before you is the proposed action. I believe each of you have a copy. It basically says that we, Brent, you put together this?
I think we ought to have someone read it. I apologize for not giving you the formal resolution, but we didn't really finish on this until about an hour before your meeting, so we dashed this out on Rich's computer. But I will tell you that this is what I would recommend to you as the substantive action portion of the resolution. And if you have any questions about it, I'd be glad to answer them. Specifically, it gives us guidance as to what we may negotiate from this point forward as to the substantive areas of the regulations, as to the enforcement remedies section, and puts a floor under each of them. And I think it's very important for the franchisees' lawyers to understand the Commission's parameters so that we're not just going into this wide open. So we do recommend that that be our motion, and I will translate that into a resolution if that is the motion. And you can make any amendments that you want to that if you'd like.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make the following motion. Number one, that we continue today's hearing on the adoption of the amended regulations until March 5, 92. Number two, that we approve in concept the proposed amended regulations. And there are a couple items here. A, subject to further refinements and language not affecting the conceptual content of the substantive provisions. Those are sections 1 through 7 inclusive of the regulations. B, subject to further proposed amendments of section 8 and 9 to be discussed by counsel for the Commission and the company, which, number one, may refine the present procedural enforcement and remedy provisions, but which will in no event lessen the motivational sanctions for compliance available to the Commission. And number two, provide a factual determination procedure more closely approximating, but not less stringent than, the procedures specified for such purposes in the franchise and the licensing ordinances. And number three, provide for an amplified definition of an occurrence, quote unquote, for remedies purposes. And finally, C, subject to agreement by the corporate entities of the franchisee in writing and in the form of approved by counsel for the Commission, to be delivered to the Commission on or before February 28, 92, in which the company, one, commits to comply with the proposed regulations upon adoption, and two, waives any and all legal defenses and claims relating to the enforceability of the proposed regulations based upon statutory and contractual preemption grounds.
Second. You have heard the motion and second discussion at this point. Any commissioners? Mr. Rupert, do you want to comment on this in any way?
I'm sorry.
Did you have any comment or addition, or
no?
Do you accept it as so?
As it was read,
as proposed.
Yes.
Thank you. Rich, any?
No further comments, Mr. Chair.
Oh, that's fine, Mr. Chairman. I strongly recommend.
Further comment from here or from the audience? We'll move to a vote on the motion as presented.
Grantland Johnson.
Aye.
Toby Johnson. Collins. Roby.
Aye.
Strang.
Aye.
Harris. Castanis.
Aye.
Panay?
Aye.
Fletcher?
Aye.
Motion
We declare the motion has prevailed, and that closes out item number 2, and it also closes out an era of efforts that were cooperative in the extreme, cordial, late at night, many a phone call, many a fax document, but we're now in the final phase of rounding it out, and it will be then placed before you March 5 for final disposition.
I just wanted to say one thing, Mr. Fletcher, and that is that this commission owes you a great deal. I know this has been extremely time-consuming for you, and you've done, an outstanding job. So I think we need to say a big thank you for all the time that you put together in bringing us to this cooperative agreement.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate
staff has
that.
done an absolutely wonderful job. We need to say good things, and now and then we're quick to criticize, so we need to also compliment.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, I might just add to Ms. Roby our thanks, and also for you playing the tough guy at times and making sure that the staff and the company got together and finally worked this out, and that's what it took. So thank you very much.
Well, if you watch state television, I built up for this by watching old John Wayne movies. And it was difficult not to find a 6-gun and strap it up. But I do appreciate your remarks, and we'll carry forward in this manner continuously. Item number 3, status report, Executive Director's report.
2 quick comments, Mr. Chair. One is that the commission offices have relocated. We're now on the 5th floor of the new library building. If you can get successfully past security, come visit us. If you're outside walking on the Plaza Park side and look through the Galleria, that's usually my feet up at the desk that you see through the window. Come visit us anyhow. Secondly, I've made, as staff's recommendation, I think a good idea, a good change for all local government entities on Metro Cable 61, and that is that we're running at fixed times on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday nights, an agenda hour for all upcoming meetings that week in one place at one time. And so that's one more twist we're making. The agendas will continue to run immediately before a meeting, but we're finding now as schedules get tight that the Board of Supervisors often breaks, and we come up right live with City Council, so there's no time for the agenda to be there. So the agendas run between 6 and 7 p.m. on the bulletin board, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And that concludes comments on the staff status.
Any question or comment from the commission, the audience? Is there any other item to be discussed under item number 3?
Just to comment on the program guide. Nice job.
Okay.
I think it's nice to see all of them consolidated in one.
Yes, you all should be getting it in one form, either at home or at work. The office is becoming
very good.
Item number 4, Religious Coalition for Cable Television, non-compliance with channel use agreement. Are you presenting that, Rich?
Yes, there's at this point not much to say. There is no recommendation for action on this item. The Religious Coalition was running programming that violated our channel agreement relative to commercial use. They've now pulled it off and are looking for alternative ways of filtering that programming out from their satellite feed. Right now, I have no administrative reason or problem with the RCCTV. No action recommended.
We would just ask you to continue to follow it and bring it back if there are any other changes.
Yes, and I have helped Mr. Fletcher watches the channel frequently.
Is there any question from commission members to Rich or others on this topic? Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak to this topic? Item number 5, public opportunity to discuss matters not on this agenda but within commission jurisdiction. We have one person, Patrick McCarthy, who wishes to speak to us.
Hi. I'm thankful that I do have this opportunity to talk. I will say that I have talked to a member of Sacramento Cable about this problem, finally. I won't go into the detail that I was planning to go to because it is in their indication that they have admitted that they are wrong and will admit to that after I'm done. So rather than making my case, which was my intention, I still want to put into the record a couple of pieces of it. This started in the end of March of 1990. The basic situation was that I had started limited basic cable in September at the 25-cent a month rate, and at the end of March they switched me over to $5 a month. And I wrote and said that I don't think this is right. I paid a year in advance. And the two things that concern me are, number one, they are indicating that what has happened to me is an aberration. And if it is, okay. But it seems worrisome to me that it took numerous phone calls, 3 letters, 8 months, and an appearance here to finally get someone to talk to me about this issue. I find it hard to believe I'm the only one. Second of all, I have a fairly decent knowledge of computers. I've programmed. I know their system is is all run by a computer. I've been told that the fact that I was kicked into the $5 a month range prematurely was an aberration. But my experience with computers is computers don't make one mistake. I have been assured by them, and they will probably talk to this matter, that they will look into this matter. Since you guys are the so-called watchdogs, I guess, I just want to make sure that you make sure that they check into this, because I doubt sincerely that I'm the only one that got pushed in early, and a lot of them probably just sat back and maybe complained once or twice and paid. Well, I'm an obstinate Irishman, and I didn't say, oh, well, too bad. So I did write a letter to this commission. It was dated October 29th, and included with that was the 2 letters that I had mailed. Not all 3. I only had copies of 2 of them, the last 2, both of which I had sent certified mail to Sacramento Cable Company, 1 previously and 1 at the same time, which was never responded to until today. It was apparently lost in the system. Those happen. I acknowledge aberrations. My concern here is there seems to be 2 picking on the same person, and that strikes me as, potentially it's going on a lot more. I know you guys have been working with customer service stuff. I just heard a lot of it, and I know there's a regard to deal with this, but yet it was still happening to me in this last month when supposedly everything's supposed to be getting a lot better. So I bring it to your attention. I did finally get some, recourse in this action, and I'm getting the important things to me, which was a letter indicating, because the thing that kicked this off was they sent me to collections for $14.57, which I didn't know, and I'd written numerous complaints about it. I had done what a consumer is supposed to do. I wrote a letter, I complained, I called, I did everything you could do, and all of a sudden I got a letter from collections. And that blew the stack. So I thank you for the time. Cindy is going to respond to what we talked about and what she's going to say. So if this is an aberration and I was the only one, then I'm sorry I took up your time. But if I'm not, which is my guess, then I think it will be valuable time spent in checking out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy. Kim?
I will respond for Cindy if it's all right. First of all, we don't want to see any customers have this kind of difficulty. And the criteria that we used back last year for the 25-cent limited basic customer was precisely that it was not required, it was not necessary, but we felt that was a fair thing to do, and that would be to provide a year's time from the time that they paid their 25-cent a month to become a customer at $5. So in essence, if in March of 1990, you started with your 25-cent level, then in March of 91, you would be put into the $5 level, and so on, and give the person time to adjust to the $5 rate. And then, of course, effective this January, it will go all at that time to $10. But for the year of 1991, that was the method in which we were providing that step up from 25 cents to $5, and then January 1st, $5 to 10. I have just talked with Cindy, and our records do show that we do not have anybody that we have had as a problem in this area. It does happen. This gentleman will receive a credit for the entire period of time that he should have been extended, so that there will be a credit, there will be a letter of apology in that respect in this nature. I can just tell you that those things happen. They do happen in the system when you have 207,000 subscribers, and I don't believe that it is our practice, and if it were, I think we would have heard about that, because this was a document that was sent to all the subscribers, all 21,000 customers that were affected by the 25 cent to $5 and then the 5 to 10. We not only issued that letter to them, explained how we were going to implement it, and told them 2 years in advance what the rate increase would be. So I apologize on behalf of our company handling this customer improperly, and that we hope that it never happens again, and that we will resolve his problem expeditiously, meaning by probably the close of business tomorrow. Thank you.
This closes out our meeting for 1991. I hope you have an enjoyable holiday season. We're going to meet again in March, if not sooner. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.